all the window trim, it's finished, and I've started turning all the flooring challenges into architectural features. Let's get into it. Monday morning, just walking in for the first time. Let's have a look, see how the windows did. All right. Joint's super tight. Let's pop the clamps off and have a look. Okay. No spring back on that. No spring back on that. Looks like we're pretty solid. What are we gonna do? We're gonna leave this side alone for now and jump over here and start working on this one. There, the bay window's done. It didn't take terribly long. Some of the reveals are my favorite, but you know, it's done. To trim out a window this old with as many things going on with it as I did, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I can actually say I'm a little bit proud of it. It was a big undertaking. If you haven't seen last week's video, you should check that out. I explain all the nuances behind it. So now I think I'm gonna go ahead and trim out that very last window in the garden room, and then we can call windows done. By this point, you have seen every aspect of trimming out a window, at least that I can think of. So I don't see the need to drag you through this one, so let's just call this one done. Done. And I decided, while my tools were already in here, I might as well trim out the door. Alright, so we have a pile of the original hardwood that we pulled out of this whole upper level underneath the house in that crawl space. So I want to grab that and get it up in here and let it start acclimatizing to this space. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of moisture down there, but still, I'd like to get it at least up in here for a few days before I start working with it. And I have a pile of other stuff to work with, so I might just do that. Yep. So I'll get that stuff up here, get it drying or acclimatizing, and I'm gonna shove you through this window. Something I totally forgot about is that this house had two different finished floors in it. And this is the hardwood that we're after, right? And this is a softwood that they would have put in the servants' quarters. So the nurses area or the kitchen area, anything like that, that's where they would have put this softwood flooring. And I had pulled up a bunch of this, or rather, back when I had employees, they pulled up a bunch of this and stored it down below after denailing it and everything. So I actually have a fair bit of money wrapped up in these that I just threw in a dumpster. Well, I do need to cut that apart over there if I'm going to start in on flooring tomorrow. Maybe that's what I'll do. Just came up with a better idea, something quick I can do. So with Elton coming tomorrow, I know that he is not going to take the time to blow out all the different lines that need to run to the boiler. And I mean, just from all the different things that we've been dealing with so far with that project, I just feel that it's just not gonna happen. The best thing about trim is that if it looks good, it is good. Well, that puts me to 5:30, so it's time to ski-daddle. So we have to install all the thermostats throughout the house because we're getting heat, supposedly, today. And so I stopped at Curtis this morning, picked up the thermostats. Have to go out to the truck and get the rest of the stuff that I bought. So when reclaiming a floor, or attempting to reclaim a floor, there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into it and thought process and yada yada yada. And I'll do my best to try to describe it to you and how I'm thinking about doing this. But even I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around everything that needs to be done. I'm going to show you all my bags of tricks when it comes to how I'm going to try to make this floor look like it was laid the way it's going to be when I'm finished. It's going to be hard to show on the video, I know that. Well, as you can see, I was able to fill in that huge gap that was between the fireplace and the floor. It turned out pretty decent, honestly. It was a true 45-degree angle till about there, and then she kicked out to about 49 degree, and then I wrapped around and then headed to the wall. Now I did leave a little bit of a gap because you need to have an end gap on your hardwood floor. Well, there you have it. It's gonna be one plank at a time. It's gonna be a lot of work to get this thing done. But this is one of the harder sections around the fireplace here. Getting the angles and fiddle farting around the posts and all that stuff. When we get out into the field, it won't be too bad. It'll go relatively quick because it'll be all square cuts. All right, I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. Reclaiming a 130-year-old floor is no easy task. And this one is certainly throwing at me all of the challenges. You have uneven subfloor issues. The planks themselves, they've been reclaimed from different parts of the house so that we can accomplish this main living space to be the original floor. It just wasn't laid 130 years ago. And that's another thing. I've changed walls and orientations in this house. I've included what used to be porches into the main living space. But I don't want it to look like I've done that. And everyone that has viewed this house so far at this point has no idea that this house used to be what it was. And so far, I'm accomplishing my goal. And the last little nugget of thing that you can do is make the floor look like it belonged 130 years ago. And that is what I'm doing my best to accomplish without absorbing way too much time. So let me show you what I've done up to this point, and hopefully we can get pretty far this week. So here you can clearly see the original floor as it was, way back when, and the remnants of all the different layers that were on here. And then over here, you see where I've been working. Clearly the two different color differences. Now, this floor, all of this material came out of what is now the primary suite, which is back in there. The only way to make this floor look like it was here 130 years ago, I mean completely, without any shadow of the doubt, would be to tear up all of the original floor. So all of it back there, all of it in here, and up there, tear it all out and relay the entire floor. I don't have that luxury. So I'm relying on some other techniques. And one of those is this right here, where I'm making what was an issue or a problem, making it a feature. So creating a defined line over there underneath that post and beam, relaying all this in a transverse manner, but intersecting this section of floor into it with a herringbone. So this board terminates into this board, terminates into this board, and so forth and so forth. And so that will just wiggle its way right up into that corner. Now, not only is that a design feature by doing a herringbone, but it would also tie that knee wall into this entire living space. The challenges of working with the wood. Let's get into that. We have thickness issues, we have gunk buildup, there's nails and staples, warps and twists. And the thickness issue we have to deal with is in the tongue and groove dimensions and where they originally were milled. And what happens here is that when you go to join these two boards together, now you have a lip on the face of it, and the bottom of the board is not touching the floor like this piece is. So what I have to do is, when I'm putting this all together, I'm constantly looking at the thickness of this part here versus this part here, trying to match it up as much as possible. If I have to, put some sort of shim on the back side of this so that the elevations can be the same, at least on the back side, so it's supported. And then I'll have to come back through and grind this profile back down to meet this one. That has been a ton of work. Now, in between the cracks where the floor is laid, you can see that there's a gap. That gap is there because of the gunk buildup on the face of this. So I'm constantly scraping this material off with a scraper. That has been absorbing a ton of time. And then I'm looking at the face of it all. Are there big dingers in it? Can I fix it later? Are there nails, staples, anything like that when I come through with a grinder or floor sander? Is it going to tear up that machine itself? Tearing all that stuff out. Looking to see if there was a section that had been sanded out already. If there's a big dip in it, which will change that profile there. And if that gets too thin, then you can't refinish the floor. So there's a lot to reclaiming a floor. It's not just simple to tear it up, relay it, and away you go. There's a lot of labor that goes into bringing the floor back. Basically, between these two posts here, this section, and then from here across to this corner and underneath where the camera is, that's 1 week worth of work. About 4 days. 4 days. That's a lot of time for a little bit of progress. Feels good. And it is good. I want to tighten that up. Gotta leave myself some room to nail it. I'm working in the pile that we had stored down below the house. And so here's a piece that we've been working with, and here's a piece from that pile. Check out this difference. The bottom piece is one we've been working on. This is one of the newer pieces. And there's a 1/4 inch difference in thickness of board, or width of board. So when you have your butt ends, there's a full 1/4 inch difference. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's just a one-off board. And then I grabbed another one, and sure enough, it was the same way. So mixed in that pile is a bunch of this 2-inch stuff. And the finish on it is way different. It's hard to tell, this one's got paint on it, but, than anything else I've been working with. And the intersecting edges are all clean. So that's telling me that this, when this particular section of floor was laid, it didn't have much traffic on it before it was covered up. So we have a small pile of fairly new material. So I'm gonna set that all aside as it comes along, and then we'll just put that all in a section. So it's a little bit more uniform. I may even save it just for stair treads too. So here's another thing we have to keep an eye on. You see how the wood grain is nice and tight through here, and then over here it looks kind of loose, and you have a discoloration right there? Well, that's telling me that this tongue and groove section here saw a lot of water, and it held the water, and that is the beginning signs of it rotting out. So when it gets really separated down here, that really shows you that we have a problem with this board. Now, just on the other end of it, everything looks pretty darn good. You see just a little bit right there, but honestly, that's probably runnable. But this, that's no bueno. Good morning. It is Tuesday. And yesterday, I think I figured out a pretty valuable lesson on this whole reclaim a floor thing. And that is, organize your piles. Like, really niche down on organizing the piles and making sure that you have as identical pieces as possible in your pile. Get them all scraped down and ready to be used. True up the ends, and then you have a pile of usable lumber, and then you can just run with it. And that gave me the farthest advancement in the floor that we've had so far. And as someone who is constantly worried about production, you know, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around doing all the steps before you start laying, because you just really want to get the floor laid. And this will save us a bunch of time when it comes to refinishing it too, because you don't have as many uneven boards next to each other, and it'll plane out faster. Because we have some uneven pieces out there, for sure. Anyway, I'm just getting geared up this morning, getting all the pockets loaded with all the sundry of tools and whoosy what's-its. All right. So the main living space, that's pretty much wrapped up, and now we're in the kitchen. Now the question really becomes, do we have enough material? We have one pile of the stuff that's exactly 2 inches wide over there. It's not a lot. We have another pile over here and some miscellaneous bits here and there. So, I don't know. I guess you'll just have to wait. Like I will. And I am going home. So I'll see you in the morning. So I've slept on it, and I'm a bit nervous on having enough material to get all the way through here and back through there and over there. And we have something to do up in the main living space as well. So knowing what my solutions are to fill the gap, if there is one, I'm really nervous. So there's certain areas that you just can't do plan B on, and that is over here. So we have this section here that doesn't have anything. We have all these massive holes through here. We have a big gap between the fireplace and the floor. A little triangle section and someone scabbed in a piece. Around the hearth, that piece, I mean, they cut it 1/4 inch too short. So, yeah, that all needs to get torn out, repaired, and all this needs to be done as well. And to have enough material to do all this and create the mirroring effect that I'm trying to create underneath the beams, I just... You can't do this with the wrong dimension of lumber. You just can't do it. So, long story short, I'm gonna switch gears. We're gonna attack this area today. I'm down to the last bit here in this corner. You can set this guy in there, right? But then you still have that little bit of a corner left. So I cut the little corner. Now, what I wanna do assemble the corner onto this last piece first before I set it in there, because by no means would nailing that ever survive. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand all these up first, and then I'm gonna glue them together and pin it. All I do is I take my speed square, line up the back edge with the seam of the 2 planks of flooring, and mark the floor where I want to cut it. Now, take your little pry bar and set it up underneath the bottom edge, and she'll peel right up out of there and on top of the bar. As you can see, floor is all patched up. Now I just need to lay the planks in for the mirror effect, and this will be all set. Anyway, I'm gonna clean up, and yeah, that'll be it. Oh man, it's Friday. So, thank you for stopping by High Peaks Home.